and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. Wait, so anger towards somebody else has just been equated to murder. Okay. Anyone who says to his brother, Raka, is answerable to the Sanhedrin. But anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. Okay. So is it the words, you fool, that's the point here? It's the attitude. And there's other scriptures that follow up with this too, that if you hate somebody, you are guilty of murder in God's eyes. Because God puts hate on the same level as actual murder. Because murder is an expression of hate. Now, this is something God really dealt with me, is dealing with me. So I'm going to throw out something at you that may kind of rub a bit. Okay. Hate is equal to murder. Can we agree on that? Okay, I know some people are like, yeah, but it's not quite. Okay. In God's eyes, if you hate somebody, it is equivalent to murder. Just like looking upon a woman with lust is the same as adultery. Okay? The attitude and the thought pattern that goes with it is the same as having done it in God's eyes. Okay? So, here's where my mind went. As conservative Christians, we regard abortion as one of the worst crimes out there. And rightfully so. Okay? Because it is a crime against the innocent who can't defend themselves. Right. When we hate people who commit abortions, we're guilty of the same thing. And I know, I sat there and went, wait a minute, what? When we spout hatred against people who do that, we're guilty of the same thing.
Or if we hate the Muslim who is a terrorist trying to destroy, for example, Israel, that's the same.
Okay, but see, I see people go even further. If they're Muslim, they automatically assume that they're an evil terrorist and hate them.
Yeah, that's true too.
That's the same thing as abortion in God's eyes. Ooh. And if we start thinking about the way that we treat other people who are differently, let me go to Galatians chapter 5. And get it here. Ephesians, there we go. Galatians chapter 5, verse 19 through 21. The acts of the sinful nature are obvious. Sexual immorality, impurity, debauchery, and I don't think anybody has a problem with that. Idolatry and witchcraft. And then we get to hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, factions, and envy, drunkenness and orgies and the like. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom of God. So when you see people that are throwing out the insults, the curses, and when I say a curse, I don't mean just what we call a curse word. I mean, I hate you, you're not worthy, you're an idiot, you're an imbecile, you're a jerk, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're worthless, you should go die. Those are curses. When you are wishing ill upon somebody with your words, or you're telling them that they're lower than human, that's a curse. Okay? It's hatred. When we spew that is the same in God's eyes as murder. And how often do we see those kinds of things coming out from people in churches? Mm-hmm. And going all the way back to Exodus, where God says everybody is of value. Everybody is worth something. Even those, the slaves, the women, the aliens, the immigrants, they're all worth something because they're all part of God's creation. They're all God's children. And we so often spew out the others. And then we sit there and we start telling people that it's good that they said that. This is what really drives me nuts, is I've actually seen Christians say, that's wonderful, you got it right, praise you. What? And we promote hatred in God's name. That's the last thing he would do. let's just say Exodus kicked my tail this week. Especially when I started seeing all the parallels in the New Testament and it coming in and going, oh my goodness, this isn't new.
I was just going to say on a side note, I finished Leviticus and also Numbers because I'm reading some from Old and New Testament at the same time. And what got me was when the story over and over we've heard of them spying out the Canaan land. And they're like, of course we can't do this. And they were going to rebel against Moses. They're like, you brought us out here to perish. Basically, we're ready to stone you. We're done with you. Which, by the way, was hatred toward Moses. And God says, he pleads with God for the life of Israel. Like, do not remove them. Because God was willing, for the sake of Moses's faithfulness, to remove this disobedient crowd and give him a new crowd altogether. And Moses pleads with God. And I believe it was the heart of God speaking through Moses too. God gave him compassion. Well, anyway, he tells them that because they have rejected God, that they would be stuck and every blessed one of them would die out, except for their children from a certain age and under. So they're like, oh, we've sinned, let's go in. So they decide to deliberately disobey God then and go in with a mob of people to claim their land. And Moses is like, you're going against God, you're going to get kicked, basically. You're going to get your tail end kicked. And they did. And then they come back and then they cry, like, oh my goodness. And so it really amazed me that on one hand, when God had promised him his blessing to go with them, they refused him. And then when God told them that he would not be with them, they decided to charge ahead. So it was
Isn't it a good thing we're not like them ridiculous dumb Jews? Okay, and I say that very sarcastically and facetiously because yes, we are. We do the exact same things. Yeah. And I hear people say, yeah, look at all that. No. We do it too. We're not any different in that regard. It's a human thing.
Literally waited till he said later on, till the last of that generation from that age group died.
We need to love others, not necessarily even because they're worthy of love. Because when we want to get real, how many of us are worthy of love? How many of us are unworthy? How many of us have those things that we try to hide from everybody else? We've got the hatred, the ill will, the selfishness, and all of that. And yet, in the midst of all of that, God loved us first. When we were unlovable, when we were lost in our sin, God loved us so much that he gave his only begotten Son. And that's why we're called to love others, because we've been loved already. We're called to love them in the same way that God has loved us. And yes, we fail. Yes, we blow it at times. But we need to be honest with ourselves when it's happening. We need to be honest with others when they're doing it. Now, that doesn't mean going onto social media and correcting everybody who says something wrong. But at least make sure that we're not propagating it, encouraging it, not doing it. Let's be that example. And then if somebody is doing it and they are open, say, I don't know if that's necessarily quite the right attitude. Because after all, they're just as valuable in God's eyes as you are, and so is their opinion. I do want to close up with one thing too. It was pointed out to me when I was talking with some people yesterday about these verses. That in this whole thing, I absolutely completely missed the most important part of these 3 chapters. And I was remiss to do so, and so I do need to add that correction in. Yes. In Exodus 23, verse 19, the last half of the verse, do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk.
Who does this?
Therefore, cheeseburgers are sinful.
That's a big jump from there to there, but that's what they believe.
And it was a joke, but
on my head.
yes.
I mean,
If you do ever actually deal with certain groups of Jewish people, they do actually, in their effort to make sure they never violate this verse, they go to the point where they meat and cheese never go together. So no cheeseburgers, no pepperoni pizzas.
Many of them put it on the same
but
table by
Hamburger is not lamb
I
or
know,
goat.
I know.
No, but it's, don't cook. There's some translations that will say a young calf instead of goat. So breakfast you get the cheeses, and then dinner you get the meats.
But I don't think, logically, that the point was about the cruelty of it.
Yeah.
Of leaving it in its own milk and killing it slowly. But I think that there's a different thinking on that, so we just respect that.
Yes. It was more of a joke
Yeah.
than anything else, but there are some definitely, if you ever deal with conservative or the Orthodox Jews, they will not mix meat and dairy at all, in their effort to make sure they don't violate that. So, tacos?
Mexican
kosher.
food in general.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know if I could ever do that one. I like cheese on my taco. But, no, it was just a fun, humorous thing. Because it's not the most important part of it. But- Any questions or comments? I'm actually going to finish early. Isn't that a scary thought? I know, I never finish early. It's only 6 after, 7 after.
Just gonna start cleaning it. So you want what?
No other questions, comments, or anything? Okay. Josie, you want to hit the recording?
Thank you.
I'll take a couple pieces.